Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth met yesterday with Philippine President Ferdinand Bong Bong Marcos Jr. That story again, Bong Bong met with Beer Bong.
And they wonder why the late night shows are going away. That's really not comedy, is it? It is Wednesday on the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for the vacationing Chris Plant. Speaking of late night television, there certainly have been some very interesting developments as it relates to the late night TV story about Stephen Colbert getting fired. Yesterday afternoon, and I'm kind of laughing about it, yesterday afternoon, Paramount announced that they were, in fact, signing a contract with South Park, renewing a deal and creating an even bigger deal for the people who make South Park. Just after they fired Colbert, told him his show was going away, Paramount strikes a 5-year deal worth $1.5 billion with the South Park creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It's a 5-year deal. And they have to make 10 episodes a year. Gee, I wonder where Paramount CBS found the money for South Park. 5-year deal, 10 episodes a year. So they don't even have to do one show a month. Now, I'm sure this probably includes some of the rights to some of the previous productions, so they can re-air them on their streaming services, Paramount Plus. But that's an astounding message to the Colbert people. South Park, the crude cartoon, which, let's face it, is pretty darn funny. And there are no sacred cows with South Park, not a one. And it must be doing well, must be getting some kind of an audience for Paramount to put up $1.5 billion. Hello, Mr. Colbert. What are you thinking? How do you feel today? Yeah, they can't make money on the late night political talk fest that is a one-sided affair. But something that can offend just about everybody, we used to call them equal opportunity offenders. $1.5 billion over 5 years. And if you understand the origins of South Park, we go back to the I guess it was like 1994. I think that's when South Park, the seeds of South Park were planted. Trey Parker and Matt Stone made this really crude cartoon, and it was a Christmas card, if you will. It was a video Christmas card, and that started the whole thing. And now, years later, decades later, the franchise is still going, and they only have to make 10 episodes a year. 5-year deal, $1.5 billion. Good for them. I'm a pure capitalist here. But it certainly sends a very strong and clear message to the politicos who currently occupy most of the late-night space. Your product is not worth keeping around. You're going to pay for the crude animation stuff with the little cursing children of South Park, Colorado. And they're going to be around for at least 5 years. $1.5 billion. This is like, I'm so astounded by this. This makes me feel like when I read some of those baseball contracts or football contracts for a guy who's throwing a football and making all that money. At least I laugh at South Park. That's amazing. And in addition to that story, yesterday, President Trump announced the deal with CBS and 60 Minutes to settle that suit. Well, it's $16 million in cash, which is kind of funny because that's what Colbert is getting paid reportedly every year to host his show. But there's also another component to this. There's an additional component to the settlement with Donald Trump and 60 Minutes and CBS, and that is reported to be somewhere around $20 million in commercial ad time or public service announcements. Now we go back to Monday, and I think it was one of you here on the Chris Plant Show audience, had suggested that Donald Trump spend the next 10 months buying every commercial minute on the Colbert Show and flooding the commercial breaks of the Stephen Colbert Late Show with so much Trump information that it would just be hilarious. He may be able to do that now. That might be completely available to the president. So we will see. We will follow that. Also breaking news, as we were wrapping up the last hour, talking about what's going to happen as it relates to the next tranche of data or documents released in the accusations against Democrats, Barack Obama, James Comey, etc., members of the previous intelligence community who reportedly were all in against Donald Trump. That document has come out, and it's a big document. So, no, we have not had the chance to get through it all. But it's a massive PDF, as they say. Tulsi Gabbard put it out literally as the hour was changing. So I'm sure just like on the days when there are Supreme Court decisions being rendered, there are people right now who are poring over the document, which it's entitled Oversight, Instigation, and Referral. 18 September 2020. The Intelligence Community Assessment, Russia's Influence Campaign Targeting the 2016 Presidential Election. We'll see what comes out of this. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I know lots of legal minds who are probably going through this as we speak, and we will see. There don't appear to be too many redactions in this so far. Just scrolling through it to see where this is going. There are a handful of just small ones, but we will see. I'm hoping this does provide the evidence that President Trump was talking about yesterday, and that there will be follow-up on that. The other story as it relates to President Trump, there was a kind of a crazy situation happened yesterday where the president's former attorney, Alina Habba, who had been the interim U.S. attorney in New Jersey, her 120 days of being the nominee and interim U.S. attorney was expiring, and a panel of judges said they did not want to continue her role, so they gave her the boot. And they appointed another interim attorney, and then Attorney General Pam Bondi said, no, that person is no longer going to work with us here, and they want Alina Habba back. We'll see what happens on that. That's going to be one we will have to follow today to keep tabs on that. You want to join the conversation on this? 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Let's go to my old hometown, Chicago, Illinois, where George is listening on the great WLS. Hello, George. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Mike.
Hello, brother.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. What's up?
Oh, I've often heard you talk about your living here in Chicago in your early years, and I was just wondering what time that was, because I heard you talk about the Ashburn area. Is that where you were originally from?
We were Southsiders originally as kids, 8040 South Paulina, 82nd and Southwestern area, Beverly, and then my parents moved to the near north suburbs, where we lived in the same subdivision as the Plant family, believe it or not. Yeah, we lived in a little town called Glenview.
Yes, the reason why you got me curious is because I was a beat officer in your area years ago, so maybe I seen you and I didn't do any work.
Well, I was a stripling at the time, and we were probably on our Schwinn's causing trouble.
Hayes Park and that area around there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But what's going on, George? What can we do for you this morning?
Oh, I was just wondering if do you think this before I pass, I'm in my early 80s now, that this state will ever become a red state?
Well, Illinois is one of those unique states. There's so many concentrated Democrat votes in the Chicago area, in Chicagoland, that it's going to be hard to overcome that. Downstate was reliably red for so many years, but there seems to be a drift towards some liberalism, and maybe it's because of the university communities. Who knows? I would hope that there would be an awakening. After the last couple of mayors, after Mayor Lutefoot, as we like to call Lori Lightfoot, and now let's go Brandon Johnson, I would think that people would wake up. But are you seeing that at all? Is there any awakening among the Democrats in Chicago?
Well, the area that I've been hearing now about Greenwood, it's usually red, but the other place like Beverly and that area around there, it usually is a bunch of what we call libtards, and they always vote the same way. And then they had this past election for Johnson, and nobody shows up to vote, and then they're all complaining after he's done what he's done.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense that people would do that to themselves, and that's why we're keeping a sharp eye on New York City with this socialist mayor candidate. Minneapolis has one too, and I just remind everybody what Ayn Rand said. It's easy to vote yourself into socialism, but you're going to have to shoot your way out. Once you get into it, it's really hard to change things. So we will see. But George, thank you for being there. Thank you for listening. It's nice to hear an old Southsider voice on there, and appreciate your service on the Chicago Police Department, sir. God bless you. There he goes. So, let's go to Mike in Gainesville, Virginia. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. What's up?
Good morning, Mr. Opelka.
How are you?
Hello. Fine, thanks. We keep talking about whether anybody's going to get arrested, and we keep dropping the ball and fumbling this January 6th pipe bomber case over and over again. I think they're trying to run up the statute of limitations or something on this. But I think everybody at the FBI except Dan Bongino and Cash Patel know the identity of the January 6th pipe bomber, but they just feel that will unravel the whole insurrection lie. So they're hesitant to follow through on charging him. I just don't understand. You can have someone's phone and license plate number and not be able to identify who the person is that planted the fake pipe bombs.
Yeah, I would love to know. If Cash Patel, if the FBI director and deputy director Bongino know, I can't see them sitting on it. That really would be amazing to me. So that's one of those issues I would love to see this administration focus on getting that story out there. And the administration's capable of covering more than one crime, more than one situation at a time. So I hope that will come forward. That's a good point. Thanks for bringing it up. Mike, let's go to Phil in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Phil, welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, look, first off, let me congratulate South Park for not changing their characters, and now they've got a $1.5 billion paycheck coming their way. Don't change anything, guys. Secondly, John Brennan is the key to everything. If we can get John Brennan, we can give him immunity. If he will roll over and he will testify, we can get everybody. He is the key. He is the brain. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are too stupid to do what's been done in the last 10 years. I'm telling you, John Brennan is the guy. They need to get him and lawyer him up, give him immunity, and say, tell us everything that happened and identify everything that you did.
Well, that would be interesting to see, and I know Chris likes to call him penitentiary face, Brennan. I'd like to see what happens. If that happens, boy, that'd be an interesting prediction, Phil. Thank you. One more. Let's grab one more here. The calls have been just fast and feverishly coming in today. Jim listening in Wildwood, Florida on the WMAL app. Hello, Jim.
Yes, thanks, everyone. Call. Anyway, we can fight amongst ourselves about all this stuff, but we got more important stuff to handle. Immigration. People understand that all these immigrants here in these states change the count. They add to the census, and they can screw up everything. You got to get rid of these people out of this country first. And the other important things, we can fight amongst ourselves, like I said, but go all the way back to Hillary Clinton, crossed by a hurricane, Hillary Clinton deleting everything. Oh, I used bleach bit. Oh, I didn't sign this form right. It's ridiculous. I want to see some Democrats perp walked. It's ridiculous that we can't do something.
Well, you bring
laptop.
You bring up good points. We do have, I think we have great action going on immigration. As of last week, the report was over 1 million had self-deported, and we're continuing to see the border czar, Tom Homan. As a matter of fact, got a great clip from him last night. He was on with Laura Ingraham on Fox, talking about flooding the zone in the sanctuary cities. We'll get to that. And what's going on with the push to make cash legal again? That's not exactly what it is, but I'll explain. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for the vacationing Mr. Plant. Happy to be here, thrilled to be here, honored to be here. Talking about as many things as we can because there's so much popping up. It's like news topic whack-a-mole. Yesterday, during the White House Oval Office meeting with the Philippines president, President Trump was asked a question about possibly eliminating or at least reducing the capital gains tax on people when they sell their homes. And we will be talking about that because it was a fascinating question, and I know it could help in terms of getting the real estate market moving. We'll play that question and answer coming up. But there was another issue that started bubbling yesterday that relates to money and cash, and I'm a big fan of cash. I think it's a good thing to try and keep cash alive. And I when I was at the tennis tournament here in D.C. the other day, I went to buy a bottle of Gatorade because it was 4 million degrees out. And drinks at sporting events are always overpriced, but they wouldn't take cash. You had to pay with plastic, either a debit card or a credit card. And John Fetterman, yes, the Democrat, John Fetterman, is proposing the Payment Choice Act, which will make it against the law to refuse cash on purchases under a certain limit. In other words, if you're going into a tennis tournament to buy a bottle of Gatorade that's $8.40, ridiculous, you'll be able to pay with cash. And this does so much, and I'm curious to see if you think this is a good thing or a bad thing. I think cash still is king. We'll break it down. We'll get into it. There are some interesting details on it. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Where are you on the Payment Choice Act? I know it came from a Democrat, but every now and then, the squirrel finds the nut. The broken watch is right twice a day. It's Mike Opelka on The Chris Plant Show. And welcome back to The Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Thanks for being here. So many things that we have to cover. One of the most important things is obviously making sure people are in better shape now than they were under the Biden administration the last 4 years. You know, certainly it appears that inflation is under control. We'll see what happens. It kind of looks like that. And it appears that there may be some serious job creation coming as the president secured a major trade deal with Japan yesterday, $550 billion trade deal that the president says will bring jobs to this country. And Japan will be able to still sell their cars here. But there are other things that the president's working on, and there are other things that apparently the Congress is working on, the House and the Senate, that may make it easier for people. Now, we know the one big beautiful bill had the no tax on tips, and there are certain benefits to people who are on Social Security. It's not everybody gets the tax break on Social Security. I think the number was somewhere from 70% up to 80 or 85% of Social Security recipients will now get a serious break on paying taxes, which it infuriates me because you shouldn't have to pay taxes on money you already paid taxes on. Seriously, that's just not right. Aside from the miserable return you got on the money you invested, had you been able to put it into a mutual fund, probably would have been a lot higher. That's for a different discussion. But the president yesterday during the Oval Office meeting was asked a question about a proposal that the GOP is expected to put out there. I know Marjorie Taylor Greene has already said this is a big issue for her.
Mr. President, I want to follow up on the housing question. Yeah. We've got no tax on gifts, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. How important is it we have no tax on home sales, capital gains, to unleash the housing market in this country?
Well, we're thinking about that, but would also unleash it just by lowering the interest rates. If the Fed would lower the rates, we wouldn't even have to do that. But we are thinking about no tax on capital gains on houses.
No tax on capital gains on houses would be gigantic. Yes, lowering the interest rates would be a big benefit, a boon to the housing market. And there was apparently a number released this morning that was not too positive a number on new home sales. So perhaps this will be the impetus to push things forward. And then I'm reading about John Fetterman, Senator John Fetterman. Yes, Democrat Senator John Fetterman, Mr. Shorts and Hoodie, who did go to Harvard, did graduate from Harvard, so it's not as if he's completely ignorant. And he did talk about this bill he's proposing called the Payment Choice Act, which will force retail operations to accept cash when people want to pay with cash. And that shouldn't be a question. I thought that the dollar was the currency of the country. But if you're not using a debit card, you're not using a credit card, you are a pariah in some establishments. And it just infuriates me because, frankly, I like using cash. I think cash is still king. So we need to talk about this. Now, there are questions about how you're going to restrict it. I think they put a $2,000 cap on the point at which you have to accept cash. And then there is the question of what if a operation isn't set up to take cash? Well, if you're a retail operation, how are you not set up to take cash? It's so easy, I guess, to put in one of these electronic readers, one of these little square boxes, and you can just flash your phone or tap it with the little chip on your card, and suddenly you're charged. One of the things that I have just get irritated about is the hostage situation that happens when you go to buy something and you're using the credit card, and you tap the little machine, and then it doesn't just say, thanks, here's your payment. I mean, the guy just handed me a cold bottle of Gatorade. That's it. I didn't get a napkin. I didn't get a cup with ice. Just handed me a cold bottle of Gatorade. And I'm asked the question, would you like to tip 10, 20, or 30%? And then the box no tip is really tiny at the bottom. It's just irritating. So I'm wondering if there's traction on this. Will you support this? Are you in on this? Let's talk to Max in Northern Illinois, who's calling 888-630-9625. Max, welcome to the Chris Plant Show. Where are you on the Payment Choice Act?
Totally in favor of that. I love spending cash. I've always got a few dollars in my pocket. Don't get me wrong, I do use my card quite a bit. But when I want to pay $3 for a McDonald's Coke, which is ridiculous, but I give them $3 and I don't have to go through my ledger and take that $3 out. It comes out of a big cash spot, and it just makes it on the American citizen that has the cash and can just spend that little amount of money. Plus, it's the currency that our government was built on. 100 years ago, we didn't have credit cards. Everything was dealt with in in cash and trade and barter system, and going away from that just forces people to use cards, which, again, not a bad thing, but those that have credit card debt, it just forces them further into credit card debt and will pretty much deplete our society of the freedom to use that cash.
Yeah, I do see cash as a key to freedom, and it also kind of makes you stay within your budget. Thank you, Max. Appreciate you being there. Dave is in Damascus, Maryland. Hello, Dave.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I really enjoy your show. I just want to put that out there first. Perhaps I'm old school, but I still think, like you said, cash is king. And I've ran into a number of scenarios where you don't have an option. You have to use your credit card. And so the first thing I'm thinking is like, well, great. Now the credit card company is charging 3% on that $2 bottle of water. And then, they keep passing it to the consumer. And the next thing you know, your credit card is run up. So, it's a racket. I mean, I understand, free enterprise and democracy and all that and regulation. And it's kind of, I'm on the fence about if the government should get involved in that. But a way around it is just basically to force people to use cash. And the last thing you want to do is use your debit card, because that's a direct link to your checking account. So, again, I think we should still stick with cash. It keeps us within the confounds, of our spending. And, I mean, I don't understand that. And another problem I think is kids just nowadays can't count.
Wow. I'm laughing because you come from a state that has a pretty abysmal record when it comes to education. So, yeah, you've seen that. But I think it does connect people to reality. It's the same way I used to grouse 1,000 years ago when we went to digital watches where you just saw the time. I think an old school analog watch, you have a better understanding of the passage of time. I think if you're forced to use cash and you actually show kids how to count out your money, they get a better grasp of what the money is. Otherwise, just tapping, it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. So thank you, Dave. Appreciate you being there. Let's go to Kyle in Arkansas. Hello, Kyle. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. Are you in or out on the cash situation?
Well, I'm in, but I have a mixed situation. I agree with you totally. I absolutely hate the situation when you drive up to a window. You've already prepaid online, and they ask you if you're going to give them a tip before they'll give you your stuff. So, please sign here. But I was going to say I'm totally in with the cash availability, but my daughter works for a business where everything is prepaid online before you get there. It's an escape room situation, and so it protects those employees because there's no cash there. They're dealing with strangers and in an environment where it makes it where there's nothing to rob.
Well, that is interesting.
I have mixed feelings about it, but I'm totally with you on the cash thing. So.
I understand from the perspective of the retail operator. If you've got a store you're running and you want to make sure nobody's putting their hands in the till and taking the cash out, yeah, there's a certain sense of security you can have around your transactions. But at the same time, all of those credit card companies, there are processing fees. I wonder if we could get a discount for cash. I would go into stores that would give you a discount for using cash. I would be more interested in being a customer for them. That's one of the things I'm looking for. But thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. I've never been to one of those escape rooms. I'm curious about them. Let's go to Pete in Connecticut. Hello, Pete. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
How's it going there? Yep.
It's good, sir.
How you doing? Hey, for me, Mike, it's an absolute privacy issue. I don't want the banks. I don't want the feds knowing where I spend every last dime of my money. It's I don't agree with Fetterman with a lot of things, but this is something I've been for a long time.
So, do you keep a stash of emergency cash around the house?
I certainly do. I pay with cash any chance I get.
See, I do try and tell. I have a a gaggle of nieces and nephews, and I do try to tell them, what happens when the electric system goes down? What happens? And the most recent situation you can point to is either a weather disaster or something like September 11th, 2001, when suddenly nobody could get to a bank. And if you can't get to a bank for a few days and you don't have money, you're not going to be able to buy stuff, especially if all hell is breaking loose around the world. So I'm a big fan of having a little bit of cash around just in case everything goes wonky. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it. Let's go back to Chicago. Mike, listening on the great WLS. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Thank you. Yeah, the tollways in Illinois and Oklahoma and stuff, they won't take cash anymore, and before in Illinois, if you use cash, they charge you double for using cash. Now they got rid of all these people, and it's, they want to make it a cashless state, and, years ago I worked for Pure Later Armored in the early 80s. We had, after Thanksgiving, we had $350 million in cash in our vault downtown Chicago.
Wow.
And I'm for cash, and I'm like the other caller, it's not really the government's job, or they have no right to know how I spend every last nickel of my money. And a lot of people in government want that. They want absolute control of your wallet. And I think when you use cash, you have that freedom. And some gas stations around here still take 5 or 10 cents off a gallon if you use cash, but there's only a handful of them.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot. That's good, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you being there. Let's grab one more on this. Mike in Bowie, or Steve in Bowie, Maryland. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, thanks. I think there's a case for both, but I'm a business person and I can understand operating with cash opens the door for fraud where employees can steal or the store is subject to being robbed. And so that opens more complications to doing business. But, credit card, like with Easy Pass, you don't want to be paying for cash in a long line getting change. So credit card purchases in some cases are very beneficial. So, depending on what it is.
Yeah, well, they've made cash difficult. You're right. And I'm an Easy Pass user because it does take the hassle out of having to stand or sit in a line of traffic to pay your tolls. And then the Easy Pass is used pretty much across the country, whether it's Florida or Illinois or New York or Delaware, it's universally accepted. However, they're pushing us away from cash. And I'm happy to say I support John Fetterman on this idea. Let's see where it goes from here. It's Michael Pelka. I got to step away. When we come back, there may be a lightning round coming up. There's just a curious report I received that I don't know how I feel about this. This is from the United States government. Uranus is warmer than we thought. Details just around the corner. And so Pelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show. Michael Pelka sitting in for my friend Chris Plant. And yes, like all adult males, I am permanently trapped in my teens when I see a headline from the government that says Uranus is warmer than we thought. Yes, that is an actual headline from the U.S. government. So they're talking about the planet. But I love putting it out there because everyone's mind goes to that place. A new computer modeling technique has revealed that Uranus generates internal heat. We're talking about the planet. And it's a similar way the solar system's other gas giants. You didn't know Uranus was a gas giant, did you? Everyone else around you did. So don't try and look uneducated on this. But Jupiter or Neptune do the same thing. So that's your science lesson for today.
Where's he from? Uranus?
Never gets old. And yes, there is a town in America that is called Uranus, and they actually had a newspaper called the Uranus Examiner, and it just went out of business last year, I think. So, Uranus is not forever, I'm just saying. But they do have a fudge company, and I'm going to stop right there. I can't go any further with this. I'll be getting the HR call. We talked about the cash bill that John Fetterman is putting forward that will kind of force people to take and accept cash in retail businesses. And I would like to see a discount. I'd love to see a discount. And this was such a hot topic, we're going to try and do a lightning round. So have your statements ready. We'll try and burn through as many as we can before the hour gets away from us. Let's first go to Scott in Castleton, Virginia. Hello, Scott. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. Go.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, so back in the 80s, I worked at a gas station, and there were incentives to use cash instead of card. And, if you were going to get $5 and you knew you could put $5.20 in, it would only cost you $5. And that incentive was to keep people from using a credit card because there's fees involved.
Yeah, it's such a smart deal. Cash is king. Let's keep cash alive. Appreciate you. Let's go to Mark in Macon, Georgia. Mark, you're on.
Yes, I find it that I agree with the senator, but I agree with you also. Cash is king, and I run a small business. I don't accept cards. That credit card company's not getting a percentage of the hard work that I do. And it does cause people to accumulate debt. And it's also, I've been just recently, I was in a situation where me and my 20-year-old son go to, say, a motel, was out of town. He was going to pay for the room, and they was having trouble with their machine. So I pull out my cash, and I pay for the room. The very next day, we're at a big retailer, and he gets up there. He's going to use their store app. And it didn't want to work, so I pull out my cash, and I pay for it again. So our instances where it really just isn't working.
There are benefits. There are great benefits to the convenience of plastic, but it's also quite apparent that the technology will let us down at any time. It's one of those things. All right, we're wrapping up the second hour of the Chris Plant Show. So much more to get to. I promised you some dumb things Democrats said yesterday, and there were plenty of them. We might need 3 more hours of show, but I'll share some of those with you, plus some smart things said by someone in the entertainment business. It happens. And what happened to Scary Poppins? Now that we're looking at all the Obama disinformation and Biden disinformation, where did that disinformation czar end up? Do you remember her? We'll get to all of it. It's Opelka in for Plant on the Chris Plant Show.